guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be reviewing The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. Yes, that's right. The Hunger Games is arguably one of the most famous books ever. So anyways, yeah, I'm going to be reviewing the entire series, which is actually only 3 books, so it's not that bad. Not like a 10-book series, so yeah. Anyways, let's get started. As always, first off with a summary. So, a little backstory first. My dad wouldn't let me read The Hunger Games for a long while. Like, I wanted to read it when I was like 11 maybe. Looking back now, I definitely should have not have read it when I was 11. So my dad, of course, said, no, you can't read it. And yeah, I got the entire series for my birthday, and only then he's like, he was like, yeah, I think you're old enough, you know, you just turned, so I'm not gonna tell you like my real age, but okay. Anyways, yeah, he was like, yeah, no, you can read it now, you know, just use discretion and caution. So I was like, yes, Dad, thanks. So yeah, anyways, for a long while he wouldn't let me read it, and when I asked him why, of course, he explained like, oh, The Hunger Games is like really violent, etc. There's a lot of like bloodshed and killing, and he's like, I don't want you to read that stuff. And I was 11 back then, so I was like, okay then. But anyways, now I'm on 11, so I have read this, and let me just say first that I enjoyed it tremendously. I enjoyed it a lot. That being said, this book is of course not without issues, so anyways, let's just jump straight into the summary. So, The Hunger Games is by Suzanne Collins, as you can see on the cover. It opens with a girl named Katniss Everdeen on the morning of the Hunger Games. So for those people who are like total newbies to the Hunger Games, basically in the land of Panem, this is like a dystopian novel, so in the land of Panem, there are 12 districts, and there's also a capital. The capital is basically like the capital of the entire country, and all the districts answer to the capital. District 12 is like the poorest district, and that is where Katniss is from. That's where she's living. It's the morning of the reaping for the Hunger Games, and the Hunger Games is the way the capital reminds the districts that the districts are all in service to the capital, and they must obey the rulers of the capital, or the president, which is President Snow. And they do this by, every year they make them send one girl and one boy, known as tributes. Like, each district sends 2 tributes, one boy and one girl, and they go to compete in the Hunger Games, which is basically a bloody fight to the death. The losers die, obviously. There's only one winner, and that winner is considered a hero in their district, and when they win, their district gets like privileges like extra food and stuff, and yeah, they're just celebrated, and they're honored by all the important people in the capital, and it's a really big deal. It's kind of like the ancient Roman games, when like the winner gladiators would be like crowned and hailed with glory in their hometown, and all the losers are dead. So yeah, anyways, that's the Hunger Games in a nutshell. The actual games, not the book. The book is much more complicated. So anyways, let's get started. Katniss is attending the reaping of the Hunger Games, which basically every kid in their district, in the district, goes to the big town square, where the chooser person picks out a name from a giant ball of like names, like pieces of paper with their names on them. And the thing is that like, you have your name entered, of course, when you're born, but you can enter your name again in exchange to get what's called tesserae, which is like basically grain, except it's like, which is basically like food, grain, except it's not really good food at all. But most of the people in District 12 are very poor, and they need this tesserae to survive, so the kids enter their name again, and they get this tesserae in exchange. So some kids have like 5 pieces of paper in there with their names on them. Some people have like 40, people only have one if they're like privileged and don't have to enter their names again in order to get Tesserae. So Katniss's family, yes, is on the poor side, and Katniss has entered her name multiple times. So there are hundreds of names in there. So she doesn't think there's a super likely chance she'll get picked, but there is a higher chance of her getting picked than others. However, when the time comes to draw the girl tribute's name, they draw Katniss's sister instead. And Katniss's sister Prim is like a little girl, and Katniss is like, there is no way I'm letting you go to the games to die. So she volunteers and takes Prim's place. Of course, that means she's probably going to go to certain death, but she's willing to do it to save her sister. And when the boy tributes come, they pick Peeta Mellark. And then, of course, like, he's one of the more privileged people, like, his dad is a baker and stuff. So he never had to enter, he never had to enter his name multiple times, which is then kind of ironic because, like, he got picked. And, like, say, for example, Katniss's friend Gale has, like, his name entered, like, 50 times or something, because his family is really poor and they have to get a lot of Tesserae. But of course, Peeta got picked. So anyways, Peeta and Katniss are the two tributes. And of course that means at least one of them will be dying in the Hunger Games. And District 12 has had a pretty low history of winning. There's only been like 2 winners ever from District 12 in all the Hunger Games combined. So anyways, Katniss and Peeta are thrown into an intense training period in order to prepare them for the Hunger Games. Except their trainer, Haymitch Abernathy, is an alcoholic. So basically like drunk half of the time, and is also like a super cynical guy that essentially kind of hates both of them. Their training is not going well, let's just say, in terms of training with Haymitch. Things are thrown even more off course when they go in for their interview, like before the games. And in Peeta's interview, he announces that he is in love with Katniss. Yeah, so obviously Katniss is shocked by this because she barely has had any interaction with Peeta before. It's only been like a few times when she's went to the bakery and stuff to like look at the things, but obviously her family could never afford the nice stuff in the bakery, just like basic bread and stuff. Anyways, I digress. Yeah, Peeta announces his love for Katniss in the interview, and Katniss is utterly shocked. On that note, they go into the games, and so Katniss is basically now trapped in this like entire web that probably leads to her eventual death. There's like literally a 1 in 24 chance of her winning. Yeah, the odds aren't good. Yeah, will Katniss's competition in the Hunger Games end with her dying a cruel death, and or will she triumph in the Hunger Games and come out victorious? Victory comes with a price, though. She will have to kill people in order to win. There are 23 other tributes, including Peeta, that are vying also for the crown, and ultimately her choices come down to survival against humanity and life against love. So yeah, that is my non-spoiler summary. You'll have to find out. I just had to say that there, even though there wasn't really like a question. So yeah, that's it for my non-spoiler summary. People who don't want to be spoiled, go to the description and click on the timestamp I have there, and it'll take you forward to the non-spoiler part of the video. So yeah, moving on to the spoiler summary for all of those who would like to be spoiled. So yeah, anyways, Katniss is in the games. She gets off to a rough start because first of all, she is kind of like thinking about stuff. She doesn't really like hear the bell that sounds for all the tributes to like get off their starting places and go to the cornucopia, whatever how you say it, which is where the tributes can like fight for all the good supplies, which are like weapons, food, maybe water, sleeping bags, rope, stuff like that, things that they'll need to survive in the arena. So she kind of misses the bell, and she gets she's like a few seconds too late, and so she's running, and so she barely misses the bloodbath at the cornucopia, which is like when all the people that are there fighting for the supplies for the supplies, like, of course, kill each other. So there's, yeah, that's 11 people dead on the first day, and Katniss manages to find a safe place to sleep. However, her problem is that she doesn't have any water, so she needs to go find some of that immediately, otherwise she's gonna die from her own stupidity. So yeah, I'm not gonna describe like every single event of the games, obviously, because that would make this video like be an hour long. So we're just gonna kind of fast forward a little, but again, I won't skip over the important stuff. The important stuff I'm covering, just the small stuff I won't. So yeah, anyways, Katniss tries to make some allies. Allies get killed, and so now she and Peeta are kind of playing this star-crossed lovers dynamic, because after Peeta announced his love for her in the games, there are only like 6 of them left, 6 of the tributes left, and the head game maker, Claudius Templesmith, announces that there's been a rule change, and now both tributes from the same district can both win if they're the last ones left alive. And so before Katniss can stop herself, she literally screams Peeta's name, because she knows that Peeta is like now her ally, and they need to like work together in order to win and survive. So Peeta is really wounded. His leg is messed up badly, and Katniss does her. So after Katniss finds Peeta, she figures out that his leg has been like wounded and it's messed up really badly. So she cleans him off, because he's like coated in like mud and dirt and all this gross stuff. So she cleans off and tries to disinfect his wound. But yes, his wound does get infected, and she needs this medicine, and obviously there's no medicine to be found anywhere in the games. So what she can do is kind of like ask the people watching the games for a gift, which would be the medicine, and Haymitch is the one who would be like sending them gifts, etc. Haymitch can't send medicine yet, but he sends her some food, which she can obviously use to help Peeta get better and regain his strength. She's kind of forced to play the star-crossed lovers angle, because whenever she like does something loving to Peeta, like, I don't know, kissing him or hugging him, etc., then Haymitch like sends her a gift. So obviously he's telling her, you know, you show that you're in love with Peeta, you get a gift. And Suzanne is kind of like forced to play that, even though she doesn't actually like Peeta in that way. So anyways, now most of the other tributes are dead. There's like, I think at this point there were, what, 2 left? Yeah, I think there's 2 left. And anyways, one of them gets killed by like poisonous berries, of course. So anyways, now the way that the game makers used to drive Katniss, Peeta, and the last tribute, whose name is Clove, together, they use these like mutations, and these mutations, like these mutated animals basically, are these wolves that actually bear the faces, or like resemble the faces of the dead tributes. And so obviously this is very traumatizing for Katniss, because you're seeing like all the people who died, especially like her past allies like Rue, and she's seeing like all of them, like their faces, and it's just really traumatizing for her. So that kind of like distracts her for a while, but she and Peeta flee to the cornucopia, which is like kind of the safest place, because they can get high up and the wolves won't be able to reach them. But Clove is also there too, and so they are gonna either be killed by the wolves or killed by Clove. So anyways, Cato now has Peeta in like a headlock, and Peeta is like literally choking. But in the last effort, he like uses his finger, and it's like covered in blood, because one of the wolves like bit his leg, and his leg is like bloody and stuff. So anyways, his fingers are covered in blood, and then he makes like an X on Clove's hand that's like, you know, gripping him in a headlock, right? And Katniss, of course, obviously understands what this means, and uses her bow and arrows, because she's always been handy with a bow, and shoots Clove's hand, and that's just good enough for Clove to lose his balance. Like, obviously he's surprised. Lets go of Peeta and tumbles into the wolves, but Peeta is not actually, but Clove is not actually dead yet. Katniss and Peeta wait a while, and they go on and Clove's body is like totally mangled and stuff. Thankfully there wasn't that much description on that. They just described his body as the raw hunk of meat that used to be my enemy makes a sound. Okay, anyways, so there's not that much description on that, but I have a pretty vivid imagination, and I can kind of imagine. But anyways, so Katniss mercifully finishes him off, and yeah, they're the only 2 tributes left. now supposedly they won, right? So now they're waiting for like the victory horn and like for the ship that'll come and take them to their victory banquet. But Mr. Claudius Templesmith comes back and announces that the revision to the rules has been revoked and there must be one winner. So now Katniss and Peeta are like floored. Honestly, I was floored when I read that. And now obviously one of them has to kill the other person. And so obviously now they both want to sacrifice themselves for the other person. And Peeta tries to make Katniss kill him, but Katniss's brain is spinning. She knows that the Capitol needs to have a winner of the Hunger Games, obviously, right? To like applaud and parade around and everything, because without a winner, the Hunger Games would be like an epic failure. So she remembers that she has a pouch of those poisonous berries that killed one of the earlier tributes, and so she's like to Peeta, I have an idea, and she starts opening the pouch, and obviously Peeta thinks she's going to kill herself. She's like, no, don't do it. Katniss takes it out and gives some to him, and then he's like, oh, I understand now. So they both have these berries, and Katniss like makes sure they show them to like, you know, the cameras and stuff that are like watching them and broadcasting the Hunger Games, and she's like, on the count of 3, and they're like literally almost eating the berry, like they literally just put them in their mouths when Mr. Claudius Templesmith is like, stop, everybody stop, I present to you the winners of the 74th Hunger Games, Katniss Everdeen and Peeta Mellarkins. Yeah, it's kind of funny, but not funny. So yeah, basically Katniss's plan worked, and obviously the Capitol did not want to have no winners, so they decided, you know what, we can't do this, we can't let both of them die. So now they are both the winners, and they're taken out of the arena. Finally, they get a bath, they get all these nice things, their wounds are cleaned up, Peeta gets the medicine that he needs. But now actually the most dangerous part of the games begin, because now President Snow obviously sees Katniss's decision as an act of rebellion against the Capitol, and obviously all rebels against the Capitol are punished, obviously. And so there's kind of like this there's this like underlying current of like, you better watch your back, Katniss. And Katniss has to be really careful about what she says and etc. in case it'll come off the wrong way. And then top it all off, Peeta finds out that Katniss never actually really liked him in that way, because he actually genuinely is in love with her, but Katniss is not. And so Peeta is now like deeply hurt, and he's kind of like starting to withdraw from Katniss and everything. And Katniss is like scared too, because like even though she doesn't like Peeta in that way, she still values him as a friend, obviously. And so yeah, then the book ends, which is, yeah, I can imagine waiting for Catching Fire to come out. That would have been torture. Anyways, yeah, so that's the end of my spoiler summary. Let's move on to the worldviews. Welcome back, non-spoiler people. Let's get started. So, Suzanne Collins is not a Christian author, as I have said before. No, Suzanne Collins is not a Christian author as far as I'm aware of. Apparently she's Roman Catholic, but I don't know that for sure, so I'm not going to make any assumptions. Again, the Hunger Games has like no religion in it whatsoever. There's no like really, I guess the worldview then is that like everybody has to obey the Capitol or die. It's very dystopian. So yeah, there's no religion whatsoever, not even a made up one. So yeah, moving on to foul language. So there were no bad words in here. There are mentions of like some characters cursing or swearing, but again, no specific words are mentioned. So it's clean in that aspect. Let's move on to violence. As for violence, again, The Hunger Games is a violent book by nature. There is a lot of killing. However, it somehow manages to be like violent with the killing, but not descriptive at the same time. Like it'll say so and so was killed by eating poisonous berries, for example, or so and so died because of like a knife in their back. I don't know. I mean, like it does have description of like wounds and stuff, like blood from wounds and etc. But like I don't know, it's just not super. I didn't find it like triggering for me at all. Like there are some books where I'm like, okay, that is too much in terms of the description, but this wasn't one of them. So yeah, again, I think the important thing is like to not be desensitized to violence, because of course killing is wrong. And I think, again, what worked for me was that, like, kind of just telling myself every once in a while, taking a break and being like, remember, killing is wrong, don't get desensitized to killing, this is evil. Yeah, I think that worked pretty well for me because I'm not desensitized to violence just because of this book. But yeah, I would advise caution for those who are like heavily sensitive to killing or violence in general. Okay, so moving on to romance. This book is not like a heavily romance-driven book. There's nothing inappropriate there. There were quite a few scenes when Katniss and Peeta had to, kiss to keep up the star-crossed lovers act. But I don't know if, like, technically it wasn't really a real romance. I mean, I guess it was in terms of on Peeta's part, but, like, not Katniss, because she didn't really feel that way. So they kind of had to do it, like, for the TV. So yeah, again, there's nothing inappropriate here. These kisses are, like, barely detailed. It's, like, literally, and Katniss kissed Peeta, like, literally. There's no detail or anything. There is a scene where Katniss had to take off her clothes because her prep team had to, like, wax her and stuff before her interview so she would, like, look nice and stuff. But there's, like, no description of her. And there's also another scene when the character was wounded and another character had to take off most of his clothes to wash and bathe his wound. But again, no description was provided. I mean, this is so awkward. Moving on to alcohol. So, again, their mentor trainer, Haymitch, is a drunkard, and there are quite a few scenes where he's drinking and is drunk. But at least, like, Collins portrays Haymitch as, like, a really negative, like, pessimistic, cynical character. And whenever he's, like, hungover, he's always super grumpy. So that she, like, associates alcohol with, like, a negative effect on people, which alcohol does have a really negative effect on people. So, yeah. Moving on, lastly, to my rating recommended age level. I'm going to rate this book 4 stars. Honestly, it was really good. Just the plot line and everything, it was so deep, so many unexpected twists and turns. Yeah, just the world building, it was incredible. There was so much detail. Like, the characters are all really incredible too. You really feel like they're real people, and they just have so much depth to them. I will put the age level at 13 plus, because, again, due to the violent nature of this book, there is quite a lot of killing, and again, I wouldn't really recommend this a whole lot to people who are sensitive to violence. But otherwise, it was a really good book if you put all of that aside. Yeah, it was amazing. So that's about it for my review, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will be reviewing the rest of the series in more depth and detail. Yeah, I hope my reviews will help you, like, understand whether this book is appropriate for you to read or not, because I know people like my dad might be struggling with wondering whether to know their kids are appropriate. No, whether this book is, like, appropriate for their kids to read, or whether their kids are, like, emotionally and mentally mature enough to read this. So again, based on what I've said, parents, please use your discretion and guidance on what to let your kids read this book. And people out there my age, use your discretion too. Like, again, if you're sensitive to violence, I would not recommend it, so use your brain. Okay, with that, let's end this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like down below and subscribe to my channel. And yeah, I can't believe we passed 50 subscribers, guys. I've been stuck on 40, in the 40s for a long time. And yeah, we're at 50, halfway to 100. And I know we've been at 50 for a while, actually. But yeah, just wanted to celebrate because I forgot to mention that in my last video. So yeah, again, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next week to review Catching Fire. Bye!